They sent me on a business trip and provided me with a rented apartment. On the first night, I was awakened by the sounds of rolling balls. And it wasn't just one rental, but a whole series. It looked like they were playing bowling there. He didn't go to investigate. Who am I to get my license in a rented apartment? And, to be honest, I was too lazy. However, after a week of listening to these sound effects, I reached the required condition and went to the upper floor. I pressed the bell button, but apparently it was turned off and they didn't open it for me. Then I knocked. The effect is the same. My grandfather stuck his head out of the next door and informed me that no one had lived in this apartment for a long time. When I asked him what was going on, he shrugged and disappeared through the door. I knocked on the door again, but there was silence. Deciding that the noisy neighbors understood what they wanted from them and would be quiet until morning, I went home. After drinking tea, he lay down on the bed, wrapped his head in a blanket and closed his eyes. The balloon rolled over his head again. In a rage, I jumped out of bed, pulled on sweatpants, jumped the stairs 2 at a time, ran to the top floor and kicked the door with all my might. To my surprise, the door opened and I stumbled into someone else's apartment. There was a pop behind me, then a lock clicked, and it became dark. Someone grabbed my shoulder tightly and pushed me towards the kitchen. In the kitchen, in the very dim light of a kerosene lamp, I could barely make out 2 strange silhouettes sitting at the table. A third man, standing behind me, ordered me to sit down in a buzzing, rasping voice that brooked no argument. I pulled a stool out from under the table, got ready to sit on it, and glanced briefly at the people sitting there. What I saw made my hands shake and my knees buckle. If it hadn't been for the stool, I would have collapsed on the floor. There were 2 huge cockroaches, as tall as a man, sitting at the table. One of them picked up a glass from the table, poured cognac into it and handed it to me. "On. Calm down," he rasped. After waiting for me to drink, he pushed a plate with sliced lemon slices towards me and refilled my glass and the glasses of my companions. We clinked glasses. After the 4th set, the cognac did its job. My pulse returned to normal, and I stopped shaking. We've been here a long time. Then there was a story about an old woman who lived here and carried all the garbage from the garbage dump into her apartment. The cockroaches were happy with her. She didn't touch them, and they got along peacefully. It turned out that if you don't hit a cockroach with a slipper, it can grow very big. And when the cockroaches grow up, all the little cockroaches leave and 3 or 4 individuals remain in the apartment. Then the old lady died. The cockroaches took her to the cemetery at night and began to live on her pension. We ordered goods with delivery and paid for utilities online. One day they decided to connect their home internet and TV, so they went to their grandfather, who lives in a neighboring apartment, and, scaring him, forced him to install a powerful Wi-Fi router. To my question, is Wi-Fi dangerous for them? They laughed, shaking their mustaches, and told how they arranged a carousel and a working microwave. Once, while surfing the web, they found an article about breeding and decided to conduct their experiment by creating a hybrid of a human and a cockroach. They needed a man for that. And then I showed up. Giggling maliciously, they poured 100 grams of cognac into me and, encouraging me with vulgar jokes, directed me into the room. The room was just as dark. There was a huge cockroach sitting on an ottoman in front of the mirror. She wore a wig on her head, and her eyes were lined with false eyelashes. She was tapping on her smartphone with her painted claws. A playful dress completed the picture. The cockroach men sat on stools along the wall. One turned on the camera on his smartphone, the second prepared a notebook, and the third rolled out a table, put 2 glasses on it, filled them with champagne and said, "Happiness to the young." The cockroach took the glasses and, walking on her hind legs, began to push me towards the bed with her free pair of paws. After assessing the mess of the situation, I backed up against the wall. The cockroach was approaching, playfully loosening the lace on her dress. At that moment, I accidentally touched the light switch. A light flashed on. Cockroaches, having thrown notebooks, phones and bottles, like crazy, collided with each other, ran up the walls and ceiling. And they began to try to hide under the baseboard. The light grew brighter and brighter until it became blinding. I didn't blink. A round operating lamp hung above the house. Someone said, "Oh, I'm feeling better." And my grandfather, who decided to kill cockroaches with homemade dichlorvos, but did not calculate the dose. Moreover, he sent the floor of the entrance to the hospital, so he himself was completely stunned. I was lying in the intensive care unit, listening to the beeping of medical devices and trying to figure out what kind of balls were rolling over my head. The chitinous skin stung strangely. I scratched my belly with all my paws at the same time and crawled under the bed, away from the bright light.